I think what it really is trying to get at is the notion of consideration of a broader stakeholder group. Most businesses impact on a broad range of stakeholders, and it is how you give regard to those stakeholders and play your role in society. You know, business is going through a huge amount of change at the moment with successive, corporate failures and scandals. I think, business generally has got a poor perception, and I think a lot needs to be done for businesses to demonstrate not only their role in society, but how they actually play their part with their wider stakeholder group. Interestingly enough, at the conference, I did read a quotation from a chairman in 1966 at Marks and Spencer, and he gave this following quote in his annual statement, which I think summarises it really, really well. And he said, "The main purpose of building up a great business should not be merely to make money. A company has its responsibilities, not only to the shareholders, but also to the staff, the customers, and the whole community in which it trades. Unless it gives satisfaction and even happiness to all concerned, it will fail in its aims in the long run. Unless a company has a continuous record of profits, it cannot grow, nor can it do really well any of those things it has set out to do. Long-term success calls for a simply human approach. The means of achieving the aims have to be clearly laid down, understood and accepted by all concerned." So I think it is really getting at that broader notion of running a business, culture, values and the contribution to society, rather than just a profit-making entity. Well, as you know, and as we were speaking about at the conference, in the UK we have had the publication of a new UK corporate governance code that was published in July, and this new code is really challenging businesses and shareholders to really embrace culture and values and the wider stakeholder community, and it emphasises the importance of several key areas of governance. The importance of building a positive relationship between companies, their shareholders and stakeholders, with the recognition that although the board is bound to consider the interests of members as a whole, it also needs to recognise the interests of wider society. And this has been enshrined in Section 172 of the 2006 Companies Act. The Code has also particularly emphasised that the voice of a company's workforce must be heard. It also emphasises the importance of aligning the company's purpose and strategy with a healthy corporate culture, and of ensuring board membership is of a high quality and focused on diversity. And it also has set a wider role for the Remuneration Committee than just the remuneration of top executives, and it's seeking to make sure that remuneration is proportionate and supports long-term success. Clearly this will mean greater disclosures, but many companies are already providing very good disclosures, but it will require greater disclosure, particularly around culture, and they need to be able to clearly articulate this in their annual report. And they need to really think hard about this, because it shouldn't be a boilerplate version. It needs to be something really authentic and right for them. And I think it's interesting because the Institute of Business Ethics has been looking at how boards understand the culture of their organisations, and their work has shown that few boards are starting to really think as to how they can test the temperature of culture deep within their company. And those that do really only tend to use the annual staff surveys. So I do think boards are going to have to think beyond this and think and reflect about their culture. They will also need to reflect a lot about their understanding of their wider stakeholder community and the impact of the decisions they're taking on each. The wider, what I call fisheye lens, should improve the quality of not only board papers, but really the board debate and ultimately board decisions, which should support better long-term thinking and performance. I think for the other aspects, in terms of reference, particularly for the remuneration and the nominations committee, but also how they're going to take that voice of the employee into consideration. And the FRC did put forward a number of suggestions for how that could happen, and I think companies again need to really reflect on coming up with a solution that's going to be right and authentic for them. So clearly there's a big role for the company secretary to play in all of this, in supporting the chairman and the board in shaping the terms of reference, and obviously then in articulating the culture and the wider stakeholder community in the reporting at the year end.